Okay, we're going. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Candy Corn Cinema. I am here today with Chris Engel, and we're here to talk about Blazing Saddles and A Million Ways to Die in the West. Chris, this was your pick. You had this genius idea, and I loved it because I remember seeing A Million Ways to Die in the West in the theaters and loving it at that time. But I was probably too young to see it. Like, it was rated R here, but you can get in with a parent if you're under the R rating here in Canada. And let's just say I saw a lot of movies I probably shouldn't have when I was younger because my parents are awesome. So I saw this one in theaters, and I saw Blazing Saddles when I was very, very young. Tell me why you picked these two.
I'm a huge fan of Mel Brooks, and I've been itching to want to look at a Mel Brooks film. And I thought to myself, what is the definitive Mel Brooks film? And instantly I think Blazing Saddles. Blazing Saddles is recognized as one of the funniest movies of all time. It's been saved by the National Film Registry. Library of Congress has it preserved. Like, it's really talked about a lot when you talk about comedies. Yeah. But I thought to myself, Mel Brooks is the classic seminal comedic actor, director, writer. Who do I pair up against that? But maybe with a film that didn't do as well. And that's when it hit me. Seth MacFarlane. Seth MacFarlane is also, I think he's a very modern. I mean, the guy's been working in the industry for a long time now.
He's got like 5 Grammys. Like the dude's like a Renaissance man. Like he's legit.
He's got Emmys, and the guy, he's got the clout. And he's a very talented writer. He's a funny actor. And he's really great with parody, as we see with Family Guy and his other television shows. So when I thought to myself, all right, let's look at this. And I found out that I watched A Million Ways to Die in the West when it came out. I thought it was hilarious. Yeah. I loved it. And it reminded me of this parody. The Western parody too. And so we paired the two together to see how the 40-year difference between
40 years exactly. Yeah, I saw that when I was looking these up, and it says exactly 40 years.
Mel Brooks, who nobody questions Mel Brooks, versus Seth MacFarlane, who definitely can be a little risque, but yet is, let's face it, on the top of his game. Family Guy keeps getting renewed, and his other shows keep going.
20 years now, right? 1999. Yeah.
And the guy has enough clout now that he's going into season 3 of a science fiction show that nobody thought would be great, and yet it's an amazing show. So the guy has
you like
clout.
The Orville. I want a quick tangent because my mom likes The Orville, and I've yet to jump into it, and I really want to jump into it because I'm like a tangential Star Trek fan, but like Star Wars is my jam.
Seth MacFarlane's a huge Star Trek fan. In fact, he's in 2 episodes of Star Trek Enterprise.
Oh, really?
He really is. And I like seeing that kind of thing. He's a big Star Trek fan. And I thought this was going to be an hour of in space. It's not.
Yeah, I heard it's really like, I've heard it's next generation. It's basically like TNG. Like, it's basically the new TNG. So I'm excited.
He touches on topics that Star Trek sort of glanced over. Mm-hmm. And we're very discreet about. He's a little more forward and oomph about it, but I love it because
that's his style, right? That's his as is evident in the movie. But yeah, so
it's great. But let's talk parody here. I want to talk about the King. All right, the King, because remember, it's good to be the King. Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks and Blazing Saddles.
You said Blazing Saddles. When it's you think Mel Brooks, you think Blazing Saddles. Me being a Star Wars since the day I was born, basically. Spaceballs. Mine is Spaceballs. Like, that's just the one that comes to my mind when I think Mel Brooks. But I do remember seeing Blazing Saddles very, very young. It's one of those movies that when I was rewatching it for this, it's like, flashes of memory as I'm watching this movie, and it's like, why? Like, another one, like, why was I allowed to see this so young? But it's funny.
This was not Mel's first work, but it was his first parody, which is what Mel Brooks often is most famous for, is parody. So actually, this is the first parody, because previously he had The 12 Chairs, which is an original story, and then before that he had The Producers, the original producers. So yeah, this was his first parody. In fact, a banner year for him because 1974 also released Young Frankenstein.
Oh wow!
So it's
And
a good year for Mel Brooks.
Madeline Kahn was in that as well.
Oh, Madeline Kahn. We're gonna get to Madeline Kahn. I love Madeline Kahn. Anyway, so Blazing Saddles, 1974. Mel Brooks directed this. Written by, this is the fun part, 5 people: Mel Brooks, Norman Steinberg, Andrew Bergman, Al Ugger, and the surprise for me, Richard Pryor, the great stand-up comedian, one again, arguably one of the best stand-up comedians in history. Continued. In fact, I think in the stand-up comedian list, I remember watching a documentary on that, and they had a list. Pryor, I believe, was number 1.
Well, and one of the most
And
influential.
I wouldn't disagree with
just
that.
influential among all comedians.
Oh, yes. So these 5 guys worked together to write Blazing Saddles as we have it. Music done by John Morris, who does a lot of Mel Brooks work, and Mel Brooks himself. And that's a theme that we'll see throughout Mel Brooks's work, but also into Seth MacFarlane. This idea of music playing an influence, because it becomes a musical a little bit at times, and it's goofy and it's fun, but really, really enjoyable. Let's see.
They're both very heavily influenced by animation. Like we'll get into that more later with MacFarlane, but there is a very clear Looney Tunes moment in this movie.
There are a couple of them.
But there's a musical stinger. Well. They use an actual Looney Tunes musical stinger in it with the joke with Mongo, and it's great. I love it.
Yeah, I love Mongo. 89% in Rotten Tomatoes. So as we talk about Blazing Saddles, I think we kind of have to put the elephant out in the room. Blazing Saddles is very controversial even till today. It's often said that Blazing Saddles could never be remade today, as controversial the material that they put into it. So we're 2 white guys here. We recognize that. We understand how difficult it is to talk about this, especially in modern times. So we respect the work that Richard Pryor and Cleavon Little and all the other actors put into this. And in doing research for this film, these guys felt it was important to really show that, you know, minorities weren't just as they've been portrayed even up into the 70s, that they could have a lead role, they could save the day, they could do a lot to it, and yet also make a statement about the world they were living in at that time. So we do recognize that it exists. It's behind that. At the end of the day, this is supposed to make you laugh, but Mel Brooks, if anything, is a genius writer, and he knows how to make you think while you're laughing.
Well, yeah, Mel Brooks he uses the laughter to make you think. Like, if anything, I would he's a comedian only because that helps him get his message across. Like, if he could do it, like if he could just write it down like in a treaty, in a big book, and be a philosopher, he probably would. But he's a comedian, so he makes people laugh and makes people think about the culture that they live in or the culture that they came from, especially in this movie, right? Like the history of the United States in this movie, and just how people were treated, and you just put it out there so bluntly that it's horrifying and hilarious at the same time. And it's tough to reconcile because like we said, we're two white guys, and like this was what people used to do, but it's outrageous. Like, it's clearly outrageous. Like, the point is, why would people do this? Because it is so outrageous. They're just people are people. That's, I think, the biggest thing with Mel Brooks, and especially with like the producers and stuff like that. Like, he's got this through line of this great philosophy, I think, and it's really exciting to see.
Yeah. So, basic plot of this film, there is actually a plot in this parody. Is a railroad is being built in. Huh?
I was gonna say more than A Million Ways to Die in the West. I think we'll get to the comparisons later.
Yeah. There's a railroad that is being built through the West. We're not sure what state exactly, but it's a Western state, as you would expect a West to be. And what happens is, as they're building a railroad, they come across a large section of quicksand that they can't get past. So they need to redirect the railroad through the town of Rock Ridge. But the problem is they can't legally do that unless they get rid of the people in the town.
Yeah.
So the attorney general and assistant to the governor, played beautifully by Harvey Korman,
who calls out for a Oscar nomination, which he didn't get, unfortunately.
What's funny in this is that, yes, in the film, there's one point where he calls for himself to get an Oscar nomination, and ironically, Madeline Kahn gets an Oscar nom for this movie. I love that. It's adorable. In fact, 2 in a row. She did 2 Mel Brooks films in a row and got Oscar noms.
Wow.
But anyway, so he wants to do that. So what he does is he wants to get rid of the people in the town. And so he comes up with this genius idea that he's going to hire a black sheriff to go ahead and just be the sheriff of the town, and the people are going to run away just because there's a black sheriff there. Yeah. And that's it. So Cleavon Little goes into town. There is a classic bit that goes on at this point where the sheriff's they use the N-word a lot in this film. Yes, that was Pryor's influence. Yeah. Pryor insisted on that. In fact, both Pryor and Cleavon Little insisted that word be introduced into the film. Otherwise, you do not have a film. Yeah. That was their input into it, and they believe that wholeheartedly. I don't agree or disagree. It was their choice as the writers, but it is there. But they play with that too. Like they say, there's a guy up there and he goes, the sheriff's and he says the word, but you can't hear him. And everybody down below is like, oh, the sheriff is near. You know, they're playing with that. And so the sheriff, he comes into town, there's a fanfare, and everybody looks at it, and all of a sudden it just gets quiet. And he gets off his horse and he goes up to the podium and he's like, hold on, let me whip this out here. And it was like,
I'm not great. Sure. I'm pretty sure he was talking about his penis there, not his gun. I'm pretty sure that was the joke. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure.
But he takes the role, and right there, you know that this guy is not going to be the sheriff you expect. He not the authority. He plays with it. At the very beginning of the film, he's on a work crew with a bunch of other African-American workers.
Yeah.
But before that, they're working, and the white workers are they're dicks. They are. Let's face it. That's how they're being presented.
Well, they're not even working.
They yell at him and they go, "We want to hear a song," and it's like, and so they start singing, "I get no kicks." And they start doing this 4-part harmony just beautifully. And the white guy's like, no, I want a song. Camptown races sing this song, doo-dah. And so they start doing it.
They just get all caught up in it.
The Cleavon Little and his men, they're messing with him. They know what he wants, but they're messing with him. And so they're like, Camptown races, what is that? And so the white guys, they just all start Camptown races, 5 miles, and they start doing the dance.
One of them's got a banjo.
The black guys laughing. Yeah, it's great.
Out of nowhere.
Anyway, but you see this cleverness going on with Black Bart. His character's name is Black Bart. So when he gets into town and everything, all the white people, all of a sudden, they pull their gun on him. And it was like, whoa, and it's really tense. He pulls his own gun and puts it on his head. He's like, save me, mister. Something gonna happen.
The physical acting that Cleavon Little does in this, in holding himself hostage, it really looks like somebody else is like pulling him by the arm as he's pulling himself down the stage and into the sheriff's office. It's just a great piece of comedy and a great piece of acting from him.
Yeah. So, he takes his job as the sheriff after he gets out of that situation. It's funny. He's like, these people are strong, but they are dumb. These aren't smart people. And that's the thing, too. These people, they are not portrayed as smart people at all. Call that political commentary if you will. But throughout this movie. They are not intelligent. Then he meets in jail a drunk who goes by the name of the kid, the Waco Kid, played by the incomparable Gene Wilder. This is Gene Wilder's second movie with Mel Brooks. Was not originally supposed to be in the role. Was the third person to take the role. The first person which was chosen actually was John Wayne. John Wayne was originally going to be that, but I swear to this, John Wayne was originally going to be that.
I don't know about that one though.
I don't know how that would have worked, but he backed out because he has a certain family image.
Yeah.
You know, his character. Surprising. And he said, but I'll tell you, I'll be the first to buy a ticket. He loved the idea. Then after him, another man took on the role, but got in a drunken stupor on set, and so was kicked off set.
Who was it? I heard about this.
Hold on, I have it in my notes here. There it is. It was Gig Young.
Yes.
Gig Young was cast.
Yeah, this was like,
but he was flat.
Yeah, he was a horrible story about Gig Young. Gig Young has got a horrible Hollywood story, unfortunately. Yeah, he's a big alcohol problem, and I think this was like close to the end of his life actually, and he died really young. So
Gene was flown in. Other choices too, by the way, for Hedley Lamar, that's the running joke through the whole thing, is that no one calls him Hedley. They call him Hetty, and he gets pissed. He's like, it's Hedley!
Well, and even the governor makes a joke. It's like, you can have the copyright on it. We're before she was born. Like, they make this anachronistic joke about it. It's like, we're before her. You can own the name. It's fine. But everybody still keeps making it.
Originally, it was offered to Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson turned it down. Gene Wilder was offered it. He turned it down. And then we got Harvey Korman, who's genius. And that's
great. Yeah.
The governor, we have to note the governor. He's only in it briefly. Mel Brooks.
literally briefly, because he's in his briefs.
In his briefs. And he does this cross-eyed thing, which is amazing.
Yeah, I love it.
But yeah, so basically this is the whole gotta be the railroad baron. I'm gonna make the money. That's the whole plot of this thing.
It's like the dumb king. Like, isn't what was it? So there's a couple Disney movies that do it too, right? Where it's like the second in hand, like the left hand of the king is always like, he's literally like signing for him and doing all the king stuff.
He's
and
the goofier version of Grimmer Wormtongue, kinda.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're introduced to Waco Kid and their relationship, and they start to build a relationship. So the first plan obviously doesn't work. The people don't leave because the they didn't leave. Yeah. So he goes to the white men who are on the railroad who are working for him, and they say, we're gonna send in Mongo to go beat him. Now, Mongo is this big, huge, hulking guy, low intelligence, but he's a big guy. And we first meet Mongo in, again, another classic Mel Brooks scene where all the guys are sitting around a campfire eating beans and cornbread, and they just start letting off farts one after the other for about 2 minutes. It's
a big, cavalcade of them.
Now, let me tell you, when I first saw this at 12 years old, that was the funniest thing ever. And that's the thing with Mel Brooks, too. Mel Brooks is not afraid to do a little lowbrow humor.
Yeah.
If not a lot, sometimes. Yeah. He's not afraid of it. But Mongo, his job is to go in and, again, terrorize the people. Get them out of town. So he rides into town on an ox. Not a horse, on an ox. And I didn't get the joke. I still don't.
I don't understand.
On the behind of the ox, one says yes, one says no. I don't know what that means. It's a joke at the time. I haven't figured it out. But he goes into town and everybody's freaking out. And he goes to tie up his ox on a hitching post, and somebody comes up and says, "You can't hitch there. That's illegal." He gets down, goes over the horse, punches the horse, so the horse falls over. Oh my gosh. And so he goes into the saloon, is terrorizing everybody, and they're yelling, Mongo's here. The sheriff's like, all right, I gotta go deal with these people. So he goes in, And this is the part
Well,
you were talking about. He goes in, and he's got everybody held behind his back. He's holding him back.
Well, the Waco kid
And,
says not to shoot him because he's like, that'll only make him angry. And that's like, yeah.
I got this. So he goes in and he's dressed as a telegram operator, and he's got a box of candy, and he goes, "Candygram for Mongo, Candygram for Mongo, huh? Candygram for Mongo, sign here, please." And he gives a, "Mongo never get candy before." And he opens it up, and it blows up in his face like a Looney Tunes cartoon. And then the Looney Tunes playoff happens, and Cleavon Little runs out of the saloon like Bugs Bunny. It's great. I love this.
And then he talks, and then he's talking to the Waco kid, and he's like, the hard part was inventing the candygram. It's just like,
yeah, he plays with it. Also, breaking the fourth wall. They continuously break the fourth wall in this movie. They address you directly, which I absolutely. And then the ending of the film again is just one giant fourth wall break. We'll get there.
Yeah.
But it's a Mel Brooks standard. Really, he will deal with cameras and crew operators. He's not afraid to play with that.
Yeah.
So he manages to get Mongo jailed up. So that plan didn't work, and the town starts to respect him slowly. Because
like, in secret. And in secret.
So there's this old lady.
The first time he goes out
into town.
Yeah, the first time he goes out.
First time he goes into town in the morning, he's like, "Good morning, ma'am."
It's one of the more famous scenes. Yeah, you know it.
and she says, "Up yours, N-word."
Mm-hmm.
And it affects him. Like, he goes back to his office. He's like, dejected. Huh. And Waco Kid was like, "What did you expect them to say?" So after saving him from Mongo, he gets a knock on the window late at night. He opens it up, and it's the old lady. She's like, "Listen, Sheriff, I baked you an apple pie. I hope in some way it shows my apologies for that up yours N-word comment. I'm so sorry." And he's like, "Thank you." And he closes it, and he goes to sit down, and he hears knock, knock, knock. And he goes to open up. She's like, "But I appreciate it if you didn't tell anybody we had this conversation." I'll do that. And it's great. It acknowledges these racist factors into it. It really acknowledges it, and it plays with it, and it's not a funny thing. But that's what Mel Brooks does best. Mel Brooks takes these uncomfortable realities and puts it in front of your face, but at least he's making everybody laugh about it.
Yeah. Well,
it's not because it's a funny concept, because sometimes it's the only way to talk about the issues.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Absurdity, I think, is a really important in a lot of in certain comics. For certain comics, absurdity is kind of like their trend, right? And I think that this is that kind of thing, right? Like, it is Mel Brooks finds it absurd that there is racism. So pointing it out in such a way is like I said earlier, it is horrifying, but it is also hilarious, because it's like, why is this this way if like it's so clear. Like, he makes it so clear, and it's one of the things I really like.
And this is something that he's approached a lot with anti-Semitism.
Yes.
Being a Jew himself, this is something he approaches a lot, which is why you will always see him make fun of Hitler every chance he gets. Anytime he gets. You look at all his films, I guarantee you're going to find some reference somewhere where he's going to do that. That's his,
including
his
in
work.
This one.
But that's this thing. So Hedley Lamar fails again. This time he says, "I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to send in someone to seduce him, to seduce the sheriff." So he sends in Lily Von Stupp, played by the incomparable Academy Award nominated actress Madeline Kahn. She's Bavarian. Well, Madeline Kahn is not Bavarian, but her character is, and she does everything with a lisp.
Yeah.
So she sounds like
really
Elmer
weird.
Fudd.
Yeah.
And so she has a song and dance number on the stage, which again, written in lyrics, Mel Brooks, choreography. It's got that.
Well, even the theme song for Blazing Saddles that we opened with was an original song for the movie. Like, Mel Brooks is, as that's another thing, is like with the producers, he loves music and he loves writing music for his stuff.
Yes. Actually, his education was in music before it was ever
Oh,
in
that's what
writing.
his primary was.
in music.
Okay.
But yeah, so she has a song and dance number, and she invites Cleavon Little back to her abode. And she tries to seduce him, and even turns out the lights, and we don't know what happens. We have to assume and insinuate what happens, but then the lights come back on. It's the next day, and she's in her clothes, and she's made him breakfast, and it's like, wait, what? And she makes him these huge sausages,
And he's already eaten 15 of them.
Yeah, and she's like, 15 is my limit, and she falls for him.
Yeah.
She falls for him. So again, Edley Lamar, he loses this fight again. So he decides, fine, I'm just gonna hire every ruffian, every scoundrel, everybody,
every Mexican bandito, every
he has a list.
And I love that they like get most of the guys. And I love one of my favorites is the guy with the motorcycle, the bars, and because he puts him on the horse. You see him and he's got him on the horse when he's riding on the horse later too. It's just great.
So everybody's supposed to come and sign up to be on this raid party, and we see everybody that he's listed. Even there are German soldiers
from like World War One.
Yeah, they're just, everybody is there, and you're like, what is going on here?
We don't need no stinking badges.
Oh yeah, that's where
yeah.
And so Cleavon Little and Gene Wilder, they're in the back, they're looking, going, what do we do? I got an idea. And
this is where Heldon Kumar got that.
I got him. So Gene's like, oh, boys. And he pulls out Cleavon Little, and he goes, where are all the white women at? And these KKK guys go chasing after him. They steal the robes. They get in line. And, it's also a classic line. Where are all the white women at?
Yeah.
And he does it so just funny. They get in line, Hedley Lamar and Slim Pickens are there bringing the guys in, and they get up to the line, and they that's the other thing. They ask all the bad guys, what are your qualifications? Arson, murder, robbed a stagecoach. It's hilarious to listen to these guys list whether they meet the qualifications.
There was one guy, oh man, what did he not do? Oh, I forgot what the guy didn't do, but he got himself killed, right? Like he got himself, like the one guy, I can't remember.
He shot him.
Yeah, I can't remember what he didn't do. Like when he was asked for his crimes, and he fucked up and he got killed. But it was funny. It was.
And then Lamar shoots him with a Derringer, which is just nothing. So it gets up there, and they go to sign, and they notice, mind you, they're in robes. They notice.
Well, Cleavon goes to
Cleavon Little's
he reaches his hand.
And it's like, oh, we burned down a church. He's just a little sooty. It'll come off.
And then he turns his hand over, and look, it's coming off, and it's like, oh my god, that's a good joke. That's a good joke.
Yeah. So they go after them, and they manage to escape. They do get away. They get back to the town and say, what are we gonna do? We've gotta we gotta do something. And so he gets in touch with the they run away. They're in running, trying to figure out what happens. They get captured by Apaches. The Apache chief is played by Mel Brooks. But it's an Apache chief who speaks Yiddish.
Yeah. Oh no, this is when Cleavon's telling his backstory, right? This is that part. Is that not? That's when Mel Brooks's guy comes up. I thought Mel Brooks's chieftain character.
Yeah, the thing, I have to go through my notes. The thing is, like and we'll see this when we get into A Million Ways. There are a lot of tropes that both of these with the westerns, both of these guys hit.
Yeah. Pretty
heavily. You can see that Mel Brooks definitely influenced MacFarlane.
Oh yeah, for his scene in that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there we go. I went to the plot really quick. I brought up the plot just to make sure I got it right. Anyway, they meet with the Native Americans. And nothing really much comes from that after a certain point. but they need to get help. They've got to do something. That's what they figure out from meeting with them.
Yeah.
And so they meet with the blacks, the Chinese, the Irish, all the people who are being persecuted,
and working
and
on
they
the
rattle them
railroads,
together and say, here's what I need, guys. I got an idea. I need you to get wood and paint and everything, and we're going to make an exact duplicate of the town 2 miles over.
Well,
We're like, what?
So
They're like, just do it.
In their discussion, though, bringing it back to our last week's episode on the weird racism against the Irish as well, they brought that up in this movie too. There's there's a negotiation for plots of land and stuff, and it's like, okay, we'll take the N-words, we'll take the Chinamen, and we'll take. But we won't take the Irish. It's like, we won't take the Irish.
And even all the other minorities are like, oh, okay.
Oh, they're like it's like fine.
Pretty hard. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it's interesting. Yeah.
So they everyone comes together, all the townspeople, they build a fake town. But they're late. They're running behind. They need to make dummies. And so the Waco Kid comes up with an idea, which again, this Looney Tunes kind of theme goes. He's like, I got a way to slow this down. And then you see all the guys running up on the west, and they come across this building, and it's a toll booth. Now, mind you, it's nothing but open space on either side, but it's this toll booth, and it says exact change only. And
Nobody's got
gets up there. Yeah, he's like, anybody got a dime? No, what do you? Now we got to go back and get a bunch of dimes. So that slows them down. But yeah. Just this idea of this toll booth sitting there in the middle it's very Looney Tunes-esque. Yeah. Something like Bugs Bunny would do.
Yeah. Well, even like the whole like wood fake town. Yeah, that's completely Looney Tunes. Yeah.
So they get him into the fake town. They try to blow it up. Doesn't work. Waco Kid has this plot of he's not shot anything since. He has a backstory which isn't that important. I'll be honest, it isn't that important. Other than the fact that a 6-year-old shot him in the ass. That's the reason why he's depressed and drunk all the time, and a 6-year-old shot him in the ass. So he marksman shoots these explosives and starts blowing up the town and everything, and then everybody goes in and they start this brawl and beating all the guys down. Mongo's beating everybody down, and this is where it starts to get crazy. It starts to get crazy, because what happens is we see a crane shot of this fight, and it pulls out. We see everybody fighting. It's great, but then it pulls up and you see Burbank and Hollywood, like it's a movie set, and it pans over to this soundstage where there's this French musical that's happening, being directed by Dom DeLuise, who is a Mel Brooks regular. And you don't get why it's happening. And then all of a sudden the door crashes in and everybody spills in and starts fighting and wrestling, and the fight just continues in this studio. And then they start fighting with all the French dancing guys, and there's gay jokes going on. And it's madness.
I don't know about gay jokes. I mean, like, that's maybe the one thing that, like, I don't know how the N-word doesn't age more poorly than the F word in this movie to me, like, because it seems like the N word was at least used in conjunction with writers that like knew what they were doing about it, whereas Dom DeLuise and a bunch, I think it's like once or twice else in the movie it gets called out, and it's like, whew, it sounds a little homophobic there, Mel.
Yeah, it does. But then it continues. Yeah. They spill out into the commissary where we get our obligatory Mel Brooks funny Hitler moment.
Yeah.
It's an actor playing.
When are you done? I'm done after the bunker.
Yeah, and there's a pie fight, and like it's.
And then a tour group is outside, goes inside, and then when they come outside, they've got pie on their face. It's like, it was perfect.
It's madness. And then Hedley Lamar's, he's running away. He's trying to get away from these guys. And so they're running away, and they then run outside of the studio down the streets of Burbank, which apparently was supposed to be planned, but there was one guy, and in one shot you'll see it, he just wouldn't move. And so Hedley Lamar pushes him out of the way, calls a cab, and goes to the movie. So they end up at Grauman's Chinese Theater, where the premiere of Blazing Saddles is happening, and he goes, he buys a box of Raisinets and goes and sits down, and then sees on the film screen that the Waco Kid and Black Bart are coming in. He's like, "Oh crap!" and he has to go run and get away. It breaks. This is where the fourth wall.
That is like
crashes.
the most meta thing I've ever seen, and that was back in 1974. Like, holy shit! Like, that's like you're in the movie watching the movie, and the movie hasn't finished yet. Like,
this is
like,
the precursor to the Mr. VHS in Spaceballs.
Yeah.
This is the precursor to that, in my opinion. But they eventually stop him, and Hedley Lamar. So he falls down on a piece of wet cement, which, if you don't know, in front of Grauman's Chinese Theater is where the famous handprints and the signatures happen, and that's where that traditionally would happen. So he lands in a thing of cement, and they look back at it, and it's Hedley Lamar, and they're like, he even did his own stuff. How did somebody do their stunts with such small feet? Like, they just start playing with him, and then the film goes back, and we go back to the West, and you know, we end our film with our hero our heroes riding off into the sunset until they're met with a Lincoln car, and they get off the horses, get in the Lincoln car, and drive away.
Very, very Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I don't know which one. Did this come out before that, or
so
it's very
trippy.
Monty Python?
Python. Well, I don't know about the movies, but I know Flying Circus was before this.
Holy Grail. Oh, Holy Grail was a year after this, actually. 75.
But I know Flying Circus was before this, because Monty Python's been around.
Oh yeah, well I was thinking like literally just of the ending of Holy Grail, right? Because where everything ends, and then it's just like everybody gets arrested, and it's all just like, wait, what's going on? Like, is this normal day? Like, is this in real time? Like, real day? Is it just people acting like idiots?
So the comedy that's in here really hits these points of they hit racial stereotypes a lot, but they challenge that.
Yeah.
You know, when you have the black sheriff, which they don't ever let go. The fact that, you know, a black sheriff, it's a big deal. Think in 20 years when they do Robin Hood Men in Tights, they reference back to that. When Achu is made sheriff of Nottingham, and they're like, a black sheriff, why not? It worked in Blazing Saddles. So they go back to this again. You know, this film is self-referentially funny. It's got low humor. It does have some high, very heady kind of humor. And it's rounded out by such an amazing cast and amazing writing.
Well, we barely talked about Slim Pickens. Like, we mentioned him casually, but like he's pretty great in this movie. He's pretty.
Slim Pickens is your stereotypical darn toot and raff and scraffle. You know, he's that kind of Western guy that you've heard in every Western standard. He's that guy. Yeah. And he's the the sidekick, the
Igor. He's Hetty's Igor.
Yeah. This is hilarious. And Madeline Kahn, during the battle, I forgot, during the fight, when everybody was fighting, Madeline Kahn is there. She manages to get the German soldiers.
They're just sitting around a fire,
German drinking songs. Yeah, it's great. I love it. This movie is definitely deserving of all the titles and accolades that it's got, and there's no doubt it's a controversial film. It was then. The studio absolutely despised this film.
Yeah,
they hated it. But Mel Brooks, being the genius that he was, he managed to get total creative control. He had final say. The studio couldn't do jack, with one exception, and that was Cleavon Little. Richard Pryor was originally supposed to be Black Bart. That was the point. But Richard Pryor was going through a lot of legal issues, and the studio could not get him insured on the lot. They couldn't happen. So they retained him as a writer and brought in Cleavon Little to play Black Bart.
Okay.
I mean, I kind of want to see the alternate universe where Richard Pryor did that role.
I don't know, man. Cleavon Little's so smooth. Like, he's so smooth in the role. And, like, don't get me wrong, I'm pretty sure Richard Pryor could be, like, smooth in the role. It's just, I think he's more funny. Like, I think it would change the tone to be a lot more overtly comedic than, like, satirical, right? Like, more overtly parody than satirical, right? Like, kind of that, like, for that role. Because, like, he's not the, Cleavon isn't the, Black Bart isn't the, like the explosive one, really, for most of it. He's got like a couple parts where he acts like really well, like we said, with the holds himself hostage and stuff like that. But he's not like, it's not like he's got like the really big comedy moments, right? And I think if Richard Pryor was doing that, he might have a few more of those, right? Just because he's just a generally he was a more expressive guy in the way he did his comedy.
So this film, as I had mentioned, did get Madeline Kahn an Oscar nom, but not Harvey Korman, despite that he does beg for an Oscar nom in the movie. And that's something to point out here, which is worthy too, is that when you think of the history of Oscars, comedies don't get recognized.
Not a lot, no.
It does not happen. So for a comedic actress like Madeline Kahn to be recognized for this film was a huge deal.
When it got two other nominations
an enormous
as well.
It did Best Film Editing, which I lost to Towering Inferno. I kind of understand that one. And Best Original Song, which also was
lost to Towering Inferno.
I think it was the title song. The title song was nominated for an Oscar.
And it also lost to Towering Inferno.
Yeah, it was Towering Inferno's year.
Yeah.
But they did win Writers Guild's awards for Best Comedy, written for the screen, which, got Richard Pryor a Writers Guild award. That's significant, as well as Mel Brooks. See, Mel, the thing with Mel, too, is that Mel's an all-around guy. Mel had already won for writing an Academy Award for writing The Producers. So he had already, right off the bat, got an Academy Award. And down the line, the guy eventually becomes one of the few individuals to win EGOTs. He gets a Grammy, he gets a Tony, and an Emmy. Mel Brooks, this is the guy that made this. And I'll tell you, if it wasn't for him standing behind this, we wouldn't be looking at this today. No. I don't think we wouldn't have Million Ways to Die in the West. We would not have these.
Yeah. And I think that's a good transition, I think, because I think when people talk about you can't remake Blazing Saddles, it's like they kind of did. And it's called A Million.
He tried to.
It's called A Million Ways to Die in the West. Like it's not exactly, because it's Blazing Saddles is more about race than anything. I'd say that's kind of thing. And Million Ways to Die in the West is Seth MacFarlane wants to make a Western movie, but also is a comedian.
Mel Brooks is the king of doing satire through parody.
Yeah.
He's very good at that. Seth MacFarlane is good at satire, but he doesn't do it well through parody. Not quite. See, the thing is that, when we get down to, Family Guy and his shows, you got to think that he has a massive team of writers behind him. It's not just all him sitting there writing jokes. He's got too many. He's working on Orville. He's got a lot going on. So A Million Ways to Die in the West, directed, and yes, it is written by him, along with Alex Sulkin and Wellesley Wild.
And those two are Family Guy writers, I do believe, if I was looking that up correctly.
Yes, he took his most trusted. Released in 2014, 40 years after Blazing Saddles. Stars, of course, Seth MacFarlane. Seth MacFarlane plays Albert Stark. He's a sheep farmer in the Arizona Territory in the late 1800s. And his thing is he's so whiny at times.
Well,
he's a whiny guy.
He's a guy from the 2000s that was dropped into the 1800s, right? Like, cause he is the out of place obscurity, cause he knows everything about it. He's like everything here can kill me, and I just like don't care anymore. Like
through the whole film, that's what he talks about is the different ways you will die in the West.
The million ways
title.
You can, yeah.
And there's some, let me tell you some funny, we will go through some of these ways you will die in the West, because that's part of the humor. It's almost like he said, what if how could I take cutscenes and do it in this? Now, mind you, he did this after Ted. Ted did that, and only he tries to do that again, which is something that Mel Brooks doesn't do. Mel Brooks doesn't do the cutscene.
Yeah.
He's very much a flowing narrative.
Yeah, this is like skits. Like, this is more akin to a Saturday Night Live movie than anything else, I think. And then a Mel Brooks movie technically. Like, I think that like it the way it functions is it's just there is a narrative through it, but like the narrative for Blazing Saddles is the driving force, whereas here it's kind of just what's happening.
So we meet him right away in a gunfight, and he's a coward. He's trying to talk his way out of it. He manages to talk his way out of it, but he's got to pay the guy he insulted or whatever.
Well,
again, that his sheep does not matter.
His sheep ate their grass. Yeah.
I'm being honest, it doesn't matter.
Nope. He pays it back later in literally like it's a line later that he says he pays it back.
But he gives up this gunfight. His girlfriend, played by Amanda Seyfried, she dumps him right then and there, and he's all depressed. Yep. He's really depressed about it. We then meet the villain of our story, Clinch Leatherwood, played beautifully by Liam Neeson. So remember a couple weeks ago when I said we were talking about bad Liam Neeson? This is just evil Liam Neeson, not bad Liam Neeson. He's a rustler. They'll rob and kill, and
mean to this nice old prospector.
Yeah. They come across this prospector who found gold, and he kills him. He challenges him to a gunfight, tells him pick up your gun, and we'll shoot on 3, but he always shoots on 2. That's kind of a plot point. So he kills him, steals the map and the gold he's going to go to, and he says, okay, let's go. His wife is played by Charlize Theron,
who campaigned for the role, apparently, because she really wanted to do something comedy, apparently, and I think she kills it in this movie. I think she's awesome. Liam
Neeson sends one of his men and Charlize Theron to go hide out in the town of Old Stump. They're gonna hide out in Old Stump for a little while until he comes for them. That's what they're to do. So they get into town. So we are introduced to a slew of characters from Seth MacFarlane. First are his parents. His parents are so hilarious in this. His parents.
Well, I don't think his mom has a line. I don't think his mom has a line at all.
His mom doesn't have a line. His dad's an asshole. Like,
I love his dad so much.
So first of all, his dad and mom sit in the same chair and they never move.
Yeah.
They do not move from this chair. There's a scene
gave
later
birth
where
in the
we
chair.
see him realizing he's bored and his mom's giving birth in this chair. And dad's just sitting there.
And then it's like,
and he's always.
The doctor's like to the dad, don't you want to hold him? It's like, it's fine.
No.
No.
And so wait, dad. So there's another flashback that Seth has at one point where he remembers he's a kid. He lost a tooth. He says, put it under your pillow in the morning. The tooth fairy will come for it. And he's like, okay. He puts it under the pillow, wakes up in the morning, looks, and there's horse turds there. He's like, what happened? There ain't no tooth fairy, dumbass.
Clean up the horse shit. Like, oh my God.
The dad is hilarious. I love the dad.
Your mom died. So he starts dating. So Seth MacFarlane's character starts dating, and he's like, in one of like, man, it's a funny joke, but it's tough. It's a tough, I'll say a tough joke. Like there's a young girl throughout this movie that is seen as a bachelorette in this movie, and she is like 9 years old. She's about as old as Charlize Theron ends up saying that she was when she married Clint Eastwood's character, right? So it's like, this is what happened back then. Like, they're poking fun at it, but it's, man, is it uncomfortable every single time she's in a scene. But so after he finishes this date thing, he goes to his house with one of these women, and his dad sticks his head out the window, just says, "Your mom died." They just transfer to a scene of them burying the mom, and then two guys come out of nowhere, and it's like, "Hey, can we get on this grave?" It's like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And they just throw two extra bodies in the grave.
So to be clear, you only get that in the extended unrated version.
Oh, is that really that version? Okay, I wasn't sure. I was gonna
extended unrated version
of the little girl.
No, and it's funny. There's more stuff to it. No. Just more overall scenes than compared to the theatrical version. Yeah. But he did the same thing he did with Ted. He did the exact same thing as well. He did a unrated.
Yeah, that's the one I watched.
Version that was put out. Yeah. We also see cameos. There are cameos by a million people in there, and I want to get some of these cameos out of the way.
We'll talk about a few
because they're the entire thing. Okay. Jamie Foxx,
at the
does
very
not come in until the credit scene. He comes in as Django.
I love it. Oh my god.
So okay, there's a scene in the movie where they go to the fair, and Seth's thing is like, people die at the fair.
People always die at the fair.
People die at the fair. Let me tell you, first of all, I'm not a fan of county fairs. I tell my kids this every year when they ask to go to the fair. I go, people die at the fair. Thank you to this movie for that. But there's a scene where Seth MacFarlane is challenged to a little bit of a target practice contest against who is not our villain, but he's irritating as hell.
Neil Patrick Harris,
played by NPH. Yes, NPH. Neil Patrick Harris plays Foy, who has this mustache. The mustache. mustache.
There's a great music. Yeah.
We're gonna get there because that's what we're talking about. But anyway, NPH bets him a penny a shot.
So he nickel, and he's like, "No, I can only do a penny." Yeah, it was like a nickel, and you can only do a penny.
Seth MacFarlane gets up there and fails. Charlize Theron comes up and says, "Here's the deal. I'm gonna shoot. If I can hit 6 out of 6, you're gonna give him $1." And everyone stops and goes, $1? Nobody has ever seen $1 before. Show us the $1. And he pulls the $1 out of the like, holy shit, it's $1. It's so great and over the top. But here's the thing: the targets they're shooting at are black slaves.
It's a runaway slave run, and they've got watermelons, and it's painted in blackface, and it's very minstrel showy, and it apparently it tested very poorly with the audiences. So that's why they added
in this cameo from Jamie Foxx's Django. Django comes in, he's like, "You want to try, sure? Sir, sure." He pulls out his gun and he shoots the purveyor, and he goes, "People die at the fair." Yes, I love it.
So
Ryan Reynolds
in that dollar scene, when we're talking about is in the shooting scene, that's a cameo from Ewan McGregor right in there.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor's in this, and I
split second. He's got one line.
Ryan Reynolds is in it for a split second too.
Shot.
He's in the bar. He gets killed. But Ryan Reynolds, that goofy smile, you'll never.
Oh,
miss
his face is right there. Yeah, Ewan McGregor's got like a mustache.
Gilbert Godfrey is Abraham Lincoln. Fourscore 7 years ago. And he goes off, and he was like, "I used to be poor. Now I'm richer than all of you." And Seth MacFarlane goes,
I don't think that's Lincoln.
It's so great. Christopher Lloyd has the best cameo in this entire movie because he goes to a bar. It's night after the dance, and he sees a barn and there's lights. What's going on? And Seth MacFarlane looks in, and it's Doc Brown with the DeLorean. And he's like, what's going on in here? It's a weather experiment. Oh, okay. And then you hear the quick Back to the Future
a little bit of a
music.
tune. Yeah, a little bit of it.
I loved it. I love that being in there. Killen Cuoco's in this.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart, of course.
Patrick
Stewart is in this.
Narrator when Seth MacFarlane takes a bunch of drugs. See, and this is the thing. I think that we could go plot wise, but honestly, this movie, the plot is probably its biggest fault for me. There's too much of it, and I think that it's clear that he wanted to make a Western and a comedy, so he kind of squished them together. Because there's a real Western story in here, but it's like it's really hampered. Like that is hampered by the comedy, and the comedy is hampered by that. But like the comedy bits are so I think are so great in this movie.
His best friends. We have to talk about his
Oh
best
my
friends.
God.
His best friends
Giovanni
are played
Ribisi
by
in this
Sarah
movie.
Silverman and Giovanni Ribisi. So
good.
Giovanni Ribisi is his guy friend, and he's dating Sarah Silverman, who's a Christian girl who happens to be a whore.
And she's a prostitute.
She is a hooker. And she has no problem doing prostitute things, but she will not sleep with Giovanni Ribisi until they're married because that's the Christian thing to do.
They've made a pact.
and the jokes about her and the things that she has to do is constant in this movie.
One of the first ones is when they arrive on the ranch after Seth MacFarlane's character gets dumped. Like it's a callback joke even, because like when he arrives in the saloon the first time, she gets taken out, and he's like, she's got to come back later because she got to do anal for somebody, right? Like she's got to like an appointment. Is like, is there an appointment for anal? It's like, no, the dude just comes by and kind of whenever he wants to stick it in someone's ass.
5:30 good?
5:30 sounds
okay.
good. So, and then later in the night, they go over to Seth MacFarlane's farm, and Seth MacFarlane's like, have a seat. And she's like, I think I'm just going to rest my asshole for a little bit. And just stands. It's just like, it's Seth MacFarlane, for better or worse, has great juvenile humor. And there's a couple points where I think it goes a little too far. Like Neil Patrick Harris's character, like I love him getting the indigestion and the diarrhea right before and during the duel. I didn't need to see the hat get kicked over. That's the one shot I didn't need to see. I didn't need to see the beans in the hat get kicked over.
God. Okay, so all right, so at the local dance, because I want to talk a little bit about the music.
Yes.
Because Seth, here's the thing. Seth also has a background in music as well. If you don't know, Seth is a classically trained singer. And he does have a really good sense of music. Every season in Family Guy, there are songs left and right, parodies of classics, sometimes just straight classics. He loves doing it. So they created an original song called the Mustache Song.
I love it.
And so they have kind of this hoedown kind of dance thing. And the song is all about, you're not a man unless you have a mustache.
And she won't love you.
Mustache. Oh, mustache. She won't love you if you don't. Yeah. And the thing is that Neil Patrick Harris has this very snidely whiplash kind of curly mustache. Actually, it plays into it too later. He's in bed with Amanda Seyfried.
I was gonna bring this up too.
They're talking, and they're talking back and forth with each other. Like, shut up, woman. Now do what I like. You know what I want. Fine. And so she starts sucking on his mustache, and he starts playing with himself. He's like, "You're successful. You're fantastic."
It's the weirdest fucking thing. Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, and then there is a brief How I Met Your Mother reference from him too. She when she challenges him to the gunfight, at the dollar, he goes, "Challenge accepted."
Oh shit! Oh man, yeah, I get, yeah.
Challenge accepted. Little reference right there.
I love that show. I used to love that show.
I loved the show. Yeah. Alex Borstein is also in this briefly. She's the madam at the brothel.
Yes, that's right.
This is one where just kind of everybody who's a buddy of Seth MacFarlane is in this film.
Yeah.
You know, and you're right. The overall plot doesn't matter. In the end, Charlize Theron is hiding herself. Her bodyguard, as it were, gets in trouble, gets hidden. She meets Seth MacFarlane, kind of starts to fall for him. They get a relationship, but then
they
Clinch comes into town.
Find out a secret, and it's standard rom-com thing.
Liar revealed, and although this is funny, he takes Clinch and his guys take her out, and they go off, and Clinch is going to take his wifely right from her out in the middle of nowhere. And she knocks him over the head with a rock and knocks him out. She takes his belt and everything. First of all, that's stupid. She took the damn belt with him. Anyway,
yeah.
His pants are half down, so it's Liam Neeson's ass.
I want to know if that's actually his ass. I want to know if it's actually his ass. Because
I think as many Seth MacFarlane things as he does, I think it's Liam Neeson's ass. And she's like, no, I can't leave him like that. She picks a daisy and plants it in his ass.
See, that's one thing I kind of wanted to bring up too, is that like there's that part, and that part's not really a joke, but there's another part in this movie, and there's a couple parts in Blazing Saddles where they try to joke about rape a couple times, and they're trying to make a funny about it, and I will be the first to say you can joke about anything. I have yet to hear a funny rape joke, and I just don't think it's not worth it to try it. It just doesn't seem to work, and it just like that scene in this movie kind of sucked the air out of it. It's just like kind of when they were talking about it, it's like because it was so like nonchalant in this movie when they were talking about it too. It was just like, whew. I just thought I'd bring that up a little bit.
Clinch figures out that Albert kissed his wife, or she kissed. Well, anyway, the point is he's pissed.
Yeah.
He gets away and he runs away, and he gets captured by Apache Indians. And the Indians are going to kill him, but they figure out that he could speak their language. They're like, "What's going on?" He's like, "In their language, I'm a nerd.
I didn't have very many friends.
All I do is read," and they're like, okay, they're talking to him. Now here's kind of the derogatory thing. They're talking in the native language and it's subtitled, but it's not the native language because they start making shit up. And there's one point where I caught this when I originally saw this.
Yeah. I wonder if it's the same one. I wonder if it's the same one I pulled up and I wrote notes on, because this is my favorite line that he says.
So he's sitting there and he's like, whoa. He's saying, whoa, 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 stop. But instead it comes out Mila Kunis.
That's when you see, like, that's the thing is, like, I think that's like because it's right near the end too. It's right near the end of when they start speaking in the fake language, and I think it's like he wanted to do the Mel Brooks kind of like Yiddish kind of like Indian thing, but he just made it gibberish, and then it's like just to point at it because you maybe thought he was doing it properly. At the very last thing he says is Mila Kunis, and you're like, oh, none of that's real. Like, absolutely not. It's all fake. It's all bullshit. And to point out, the chief here is played by Wes Studi, one of the most prolific and one of the best Native American actors out there. And it's just very interesting to see. Like you said, when you have people like Cleavon Little and Richard Pryor working on a project like Blazing Saddles, I don't know if it's right to feel, but you feel a little more okay when they're making jokes with and about these type of people, right? Like these people, the native people, they're making jokes at each other and with each other, and they're throwing it back and forth, and it just seems like it is in good fun, and it's not in poor taste, or it's not in bad. It's not trying to induce hatred. It's trying to poke fun.
Now this guy too, you're right. He has a little bit of clout behind him. He has an honorary Oscar. He does have an honorary Oscar, which is only the second Native American individual to own or to be presented an Oscar. Yeah. So the fact that this guy played with it and thought it was, okay. I mean, it's hard to make a comment on this, Wait, real quick. Wasn't he M. Bison in the, or not Bison, Sagat in the Street Fighter
he was
movie?
Sagat. Yep. He was Sagat. Yep.
I'm looking at his face on here, and I'm like, wait a second, I know that face. There's another movie we'll talk about one day, is Street Fighter. I'm sure.
Yeah, we gotta find a good fighting movie to put that up with. Yeah,
Mortal Kombat. It'll be Mortal Kombat. You realize
is that a good movie? Is that
whatever Rotten Tomatoes says at this point? I don't know.
We'll
anyway.
See.
The thing about this movie is it culminates in the end. He's got to fight. He's got to fight Clinch. MacFarlane's got to fight him. And she warns MacFarlane ahead of time. He always shoots on two, so she gives him that heads up. So he gets up there, and they draw. It's not a quick fire either. He draws the gun, and it's like, okay, here's the deal. I'm gonna count to three. And what happens is he goes one, and Seth shoots. But Seth is a terrible shot. He's gotten better. There's a training montage.
Charlize Theron trains him,
but he's still terrible. But he does manage to graze his arm. And he's like, that's it? oh man, that's all I got. And so he says, oh well, and he gets ready to shoot him. He's like, wait, can I have any last words? And he's like, make it quick. This is where it gets real cringy for me. This is where it gets cringy. He says, well, my grandparents were Arabic, and so I need to do the Arabic death chant. And I'm like,
he says,
whoa.
I think he actually says Muslim in the movie. It's like, yeah. It's even more a little more like,
either way. And then what he does is he starts going,
he just starts hollering,
which is a song. It's a song.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you doing, man? Stop it. And he just keeps talking. He just keeps talking, and you'll notice Clinch is getting kind of like, what's going on? What's going on? And he kind of limps down. He's like, what's going on? And then he reveals what happened. He thought ahead. He knew he couldn't beat him. So what he did was he loaded up some hollow point bullets with rattlesnake venom.
Which I don't know how it stayed in there, but whatever.
The point is,
especially when you fire
according
it
to him, all it needed was a graze into the bloodstream, just a graze, and it would take you down. And he knew that if he had went first, then he might have had a chance. And all he needed was one shot. So that's what he did. But as he's monologuing about this, we look over and he's dead halfway through the monologue. He's like, did he hear all that smart stuff I did? I don't know. Yeah. Anyway,
but I think that this movie is more of a vignette movie, and I think it's when looked at that way, it's way too long. It's definitely way too long.
It's Seth MacFarlane Goes to the West, and that's what it feels like to me. I love Family Guy. I do, and I love the style of humor that he has. And for me, okay, so I guess we could talk about the title, The Million Ways to Die in the West.
We gotta talk about a few of these.
Out numerous ones throughout the film that are hilarious. So his buddy comes in, and we're gonna do these a little out of order. It's just some of my favorites. His buddy comes in and says, hey, you want to go look at the ice block that's coming in today?
This is one of my favorites.
Huge ice block. He's like, yeah, let's go look at that. And he comes in, he's like, there's this giant ice block that they've lifted and they're bringing it. He's like, why did they bring it in? He's like, oh no, it's these guys back east. They do it in these giant swaths so it doesn't melt. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. And so that way we can have all our drinks. And while he's talking, all of a sudden, one of the ropes breaks and it smashes on the guy and blood splatters everywhere. It's like,
it's a good shot too.
God.
Oh.
Yeah, and then later, just shortly after, if they were like, hey, you want to get something cold? He's like, oh, they're gonna use it with the blood.
They're still gonna use the ice.
It's great. I love that. Of course, Django, the Django cameo with people die at the fair.
Yeah, there's
absolutely
many different ways. that they died at the fair. Yeah, I think that like the ice thing, and there's the two bar fights, right? Like there's about two bar or one really big bar fight where they're going like that.
That was one of my.
We're just fighting on ourselves over here. Don't worry about us.
The bar fight starts happening, and everyone else is fighting, and all they're doing with each other is this, and they're like, "Oh, you don't want a piece of this. This is we're getting really hurt here." Rick, and he cuts back and forth, and they're just doing this, and then all of a sudden his buddy throws one at him. He's like, "You actually hit me." He's like, "I'm sorry."
It's like there's a red spot right here.
New. We don't try something new. That's why we have the meetings.
But I think that like
this.
I think that like the bar scene in that, and like I think that Seth MacFarlane could do a pretty good action movie if he wanted to. He needs to open the camera, to open the frame a little bit more, of course. But like, I really like the bar fight action scenes. Were pretty visceral. Like, if anything, they were visceral, and like it was like they were lots of broken bones, people getting like their arms wrapped around like poles on the thing. It's like there's a lot of violence in this movie that's like surprising, but it is, I like it.
And the thing is, it's very funny.
Yes,
but it's much lower brow funny. It is, and it's what Seth MacFarlane feeds off of.
I think there are more jokes per minute than Blazing Saddles. Like I think it's a more constant stream of jokes rather than
the thing with Mel, as we stated, is that Mel was trying to make a point.
Yes.
Mel was trying to say something. Seth is just trying to get you to laugh.
Yeah.
And there's a time and a place for that, which is why I love this. This is funny. That's all it is. It doesn't make me think. It doesn't make me, it's just funny. I love it. And that's the other thing too, is everyone else in this film kind of has that Western feel to them.
Yeah.
Even Liam Neeson with his Irish accent, he feels, you feel it. Charlize Theron, you kind of feel like she reminds me of the lady in The Quick and the Dead.
I have not seen.
She's got that. Oh, we'll get there.
I have to see it. Yes.
Oh, we'll get there. Yes. But she feels like that. She feels like she belongs. He does not. He feels out of place in this film.
Yeah.
Like you said, it feels like it's somebody today.
And he looks
there.
Like, honestly, like, I don't understand how Seth MacFarlane looks that good either. He's a really good looking guy, and he looks really clean and out of place in A Million Ways to Die in the West. So it looks like it's like if he tried to grow a beard, he definitely couldn't, like I can't. But it's like he couldn't even like bother to like try for it because it would have just looked real bad, like stubble him up or something, right? Like he looks super clean. It's very, very clean, which is like, it's a kind of a theme through the whole movie. Like the whole movie is it's a very like, even though a lot of people die, it is very sanitized, right? But it's like, I thought that like the sets and everything like that, they were great. And
yeah, I kind of wanted this. That was the one thing I really adored about this film is his sense of camera work in that you really get a sense of this frontier.
Yeah.
They talk about the frontier of Arizona and just the rocks and the sunsets and everything they have going. It's gorgeous. It is beautiful. I don't know if they filmed it there, but by gum, this was filmed really well. It's beautiful to look at.
Yeah.
You know, it's a fun film, but it's just it is clearly influenced by Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
The use of the music, the cameos, the commentary is there, but it's commentary without purpose.
Yeah.
So, you know, I understand why it didn't respond as well critically. I could see it. I get it. I love it because I love Seth MacFarlane. Yeah. Seth MacFarlane has that funny bone, that way to make you laugh.
Yeah. At least, yeah. The people that he can, like, the people that are into his type of comedy, they will love it for sure. So I think that, like,
Family Guy's been on the air for how long?
Well, that's
now?
what I mean, right? Like, that's why I'm surprised. It's like I think that it's a fresh movie. If it's teetering on the edge, I don't think it deserves the rotten. I think it could deserve the very edge.
33%
edge,
which is sad.
Yeah, I think it could ride the edge of like 60%. Like that sounds good to me because its plot is a little like bare bones and just kind of like by the book. So it's like just.
I think the other thing to it is the Western. Westerns in modern times are not the most popular genres.
Unfortunately.
I don't think that's the sole reason, but that definitely plays into it in terms of what people watch and what people like. You know, now it's not like science fiction films, which science fiction, hero, fan, you know, this kind of area is much bigger.
Yeah.
You know, so with that, I think then it's only appropriate that since we looked at a genre that maybe is neglected now, we go into science fiction again.
Oh,
and we take a look at the seminal science fiction franchise that doesn't end with wars.
Oh, okay. So I'm just gonna take
I really want to now. For me, I'm a junkie on this. Yeah, precisely Luke. Luke's shocked. Yeah.
We'll take all that down for next week.
Next week, I want to take a look at the Star Trek movie that started it all. I want to take a look at Star Trek: The Motion Picture. But unfortunately, it is not rated very well.
Really?
It isn't, unfortunately. Yeah, it's not rated well on Rotten Tomatoes. So I want to put that up against what has been called the Star Trek film that we all deserved, that unfortunately is not a Star Trek film. We're going to go up against Tim Allen in Galaxy Quest. and we will never give up, and we will never surrender.
I can't.
But you know what? I also feel that these are there's a lot to these two movies. So I think we need a little help.
Who do you got in mind?
I want to bring in our science fiction buddy, Chris Skywalker Doman.
Ah, I think that's a great idea.
I think that's a fabulous idea. He knows a lot about science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
He and I have talked. We are Star Trek nuts. He and I are just nerds for Star Trek. So I would love to bring him in to share with us.
I've read some of his Star Wars work too, so I know him in that realm. So I can't wait to talk to him about Star Trek. And
then a bonus heads up for 2 weeks from now. This is big. This will be a big episode for us. You want to tell them our special in 2 weeks?
The plan for the next 2 weeks is we're going to be talking about Superman, and we're going to double it up again. So this is going to be like our Batman episode. We're going to double up Superman from 1978 as our A picture. We're going to double it up with Man of Steel. And the only person that I think that I could talk about these movies with other than Chris is Mr. Mark Yodi Riley. So join us 2 weeks from now when we have Mr. Mark Riley on and talk about 2 of the best Superman films ever, and you can take that to the bank. So, Chris, thank you for joining us. Everybody, thank you for listening, for watching. Please follow, like, subscribe, whatever. This is the first time I'm saying it. Maybe it'll make a difference. Maybe you guys will actually do it. I don't know how these things work, so maybe just because I say it, you do it. We'll see how that works. Everybody, enjoy your week. Have a good week. Stay safe. Wear a fucking mask and enjoy your time. See ya.